Our movie kicks off with a girl named Red heading home, only to be hit with blaring smoke alarms and a house looking like a total chimney. She's desperately calling out for her mom, trying to shake her awake, but she wasn't just passed out. Nope, she was completely out of it, totally oblivious to the chaos thanks to the junk she was high on. When Red finally drags her outside for some fresh air, her mom starts mumbling about dreaming of the wolf that bit off her arm. Red's like, "A wolf? What wolf? Mom, I thought you lost your arm in an accident." Her mom just goes quiet and passes out on her shoulder. It's pretty obvious their relationship was on the rocks. Red was clearly exhausted from dealing with her mom's mess. It got so bad, she couldn't even catch a wink of sleep at home, which is why she was always dozing off in class. But then, the ultimate shock hits. Red comes home one day to find her mom dead on the floor, an overdose. She's completely frozen, having no clue what to do. But she manages to call the cops. They come to take the body away and start asking if she's got any relatives to stay with. At first, she says she's got nobody. But the moment she realizes she's headed straight for the foster system, she blurts out that her grandmother is still alive, even though she doesn't know a thing about her and has literally never met her. The female officer suggests she give her a call and go live with her. Anything beats living with total strangers, right? So, with no other choice, she dials her grandma and breaks the news that her mom is gone. The grandmother is completely shell-shocked by the call. She comforts her granddaughter, telling her to come live with her, promising her the absolute best life and a spot in a top-tier school. She also mentions how Red's mom just packed up and left out of the blue, even though she had a picture-perfect life with absolutely nothing missing. Anyway, Red packs her bags and makes the trip. When she arrives, there's a guy waiting for her, saying he works for her grandmother. She hops in the car, and he introduces himself as the grandma's right and left-hand man. His name is Malcolm. They pull up to the house, and Red's jaw drops at the massive size of the estate and the endless land around it. Her grandma is clearly loaded. Malcolm casually drops that all this turf belongs to her family. She steps inside, looking around the mansion, and thinks to herself, "Looks like things are finally looking up, girl. We're about to live the high life." The maid, Mary, walks in, gives her a warm welcome, and Red keeps browsing through the family portraits on the walls. But when she spots a young boy standing next to her grandma, she gets curious and asks who it is. Mary tells her it's her grandmother's brother. Red's confused. "Wait, I thought my grandma was an only child?" Mary explains that the brother died when he was just a kid, and no one is allowed to even breathe his name around the house. After that, Mary takes her upstairs to show her the bedroom, revealing that it actually used to be her mom's room back in the day. Red spots a jacket, and Mary mentions it was her mom's absolute favorite. But suddenly, her grandma walks in, just staring in complete awe. She tells Red she's a dead ringer for her mother, a total carbon copy. Then she pulls her into a warm hug, clearly thrilled to finally have her there. At dinner, Red opens up about how her relationship with her mom wasn't exactly smooth sailing, especially since her addiction made life a living hell. Her grandma tells her she was perfectly fine and doing great right up until the accident. After that, she completely changed, like a whole different person. And when Red brings up the wolf that supposedly bit off her arm, Grandma shuts it down immediately. "What wolf? That's nonsense." She tells Red her mom got into a crash because she was driving drunk, and she paid the price for that mistake with her arm. After they eat, Red heads outside to catch a signal on her phone, but it's a total dead zone out there. Right before heading back inside, she spots someone standing way out in the woods. She creeps closer, terrified, and gets the shock of her life when she realizes it's her mom. Scarlett refuses to turn around, just warning Red to get as far away from this place as possible. But Red insists on getting closer, begging her for answers. The second she touches her shoulder, her mom whips around and screams right in her face. But thank goodness, guys, it was just a nightmare. When she wakes up, she looks out the window and spots Malcolm dragging a heavy sack of something, heading straight for the tree line. She ducks out of sight quickly before he can turn around and catch her snooping. When she peeks back out, Malcolm is gone, and only the sack is left lying on the ground. The next morning, she asks Mary how to get into town. Mary suggests having Malcolm drive her, but Red passes, saying she wants to go on her own. Mary comes through and tells her about an old bike stashed up in the attic that she can use to ride into town. Turns out it actually belonged to her mom, Scarlett. So she grabs the bike and goes for a spin. But on her way, she hears the eerie sound of wolves howling. She stops dead in her tracks, remembering her mom's wild stories. Panic sets in, and she pedals away as fast as she can. She makes it to town and is totally weirded out by the sheer number of missing persons posters, especially since it's such a tiny, quiet place. After finishing her tour, she heads back to the estate. She spots Malcolm prepping a pig for dinner, but things get super sketchy when she sees him carving out specific parts and setting them aside. She figures figures he's definitely not saving those for a scrapbook. Anyway, she sits down with her grandma again and vents a bit more about her mom, explaining the addiction and how she just couldn't fix her. She asks why her grandma never reached out to them. Grandma explains that Scarlett completely cut ties and refused to speak to her. She claims her daughter was severely mentally ill, starting with intense hallucinations. Then came the heavy drinking, and no one could stop her until she caused that accident and completely derailed her life. After that, she vanished from town, and her grandma hadn't heard a peep from her since. Later that night, Red is plagued by nightmares and can't catch a wink of sleep. She gets up to pop some pills to help her calm down, but she still can't drift off. Suddenly, a bright light flashes from outside. She jumps up to look and spots a boy holding a flashlight. And guess what, guys? It's the exact same boy she saw on the missing persons posters. Naturally, she rushes out to check on him. He just stares at her for a second before taking off into the dark woods. She grabs her own flashlight and chases after him, but suddenly finds herself trapped in the middle of nowhere, with him and a giant wolf running circles around her. Finally, he stops dead in front of her and lets out a blood-curdling scream right in her face. And once again, my friends, it was just another nightmare. Bear with me here. So, she gets up to take even more meds just to chill her nerves. Next, she heads over to her new school. She spots some girls practicing ballet and stops to watch them, but their teacher walks up and asks who she is. The second Red drops her name, the teacher's attitude flips. She gets super nasty, saying she thought she recognized her the moment she walked in. She tells Red that her mom was nothing but trouble, and there's no way she could ever forget her, or her friend Janet, the one who used to sell her the junk she got high on. And get this, she reveals that Janet is still dealing, pushing her stash right out of the local pub. Naturally, Red heads straight to the pub she mentioned. She orders a drink, but the bartender demands to see her ID. Red fires back. "Are you Janet?" The bartender eyes her and says, "Who's asking?" Red reveals she's Scarlett's daughter. Janet is stunned, admitting she kind of recognized her too. When Janet asks how her mom is doing, Red drops the heavy news. She's dead. They sit down to chat for a bit, and Red asks point blank if she was really the one selling her mom those drugs. Janet immediately goes on the defensive, saying Scarlett literally begged her for them. She swears it was only a one-time thing, and that ever since the accident, Scarlett had completely changed. So Red asks, wait, did she actually lose her arm in that crash? Janet nods yes, but then drops a massive bombshell. Your mom wasn't even the one driving. Upset by everything, Red excuses herself to the restroom. A bit later, she starts chatting with some local guys hanging out and playing a game. When they find out who her grandmother is, their jaws drop. Even so, they invite her to their hangout spot to chill and talk. When they ask about her mom, Red sarcastically says a wolf ate her, but one of the guys looks dead serious. He tells her the wolf legend is actually real. In fact, the mother of Ewan, one of the guys sitting right there with them, was eaten by the wolf too. Red is absolutely floored. She has no idea what's going on or what the deal is with this crazy wolf story. Anyway, Red really doesn't want to go back to the estate, so Ewan offers to let her crash at his place. Once there, she's super into him and is just about to make a move when Ewan's brother barges in, drags him outside, and completely snaps. Is that the riding granddaughter? Have you lost your damn mind, man? Don't you know her grandma runs this entire town? Suitably scolded, Ewan walks back inside and awkwardly announces he'll be sleeping on the couch. The next day, she's out riding her bike and freezes in absolute terror when she sees the wolf actually emerging from the woods. But yep, you guessed it, it was just another dream. Come on now, give us a break. She wakes up to find Ewan sleeping right next to her in bed. She flips out, yelling at him. Why didn't you listen to your brother and sleep on the couch, you creep? She packs up her stuff and storms out. But unfortunately, her bike tire blows out on the road. She stops and just starts screaming at the top of her lungs, completely at her breaking point. Suddenly, she hears someone whistling behind her. A super creepy looking guy steps out from the trees. Terrified, she asks, "Who are you?" He says his name is Thomas and that he lives out in the woods. Out of nowhere, they hear gunshots. Thomas tells her to run before the hunter catches her. Legitimately scared now, she takes off running right behind him. She stops at one point, paralyzed by fear, telling him she's terrified to go any further into the woods because of the wolf, blurting out that the wolf ate her mom's arm. He stops, looks right at her and asks, "Wait, you're Scarlett's daughter?" Before she can even ask how he knows her, the hunter fires again. Thomas panics and bolts, and she sprints right behind him until they reach a clearing covered in heavy chains. And here, my friends, is the massive plot twist. She spots the missing boy from her dreams, surrounded by actual human skulls. She finds out the boy's name is Charlie. Just as she desperately tries to untie him, Thomas sneaks up and knocks her out cold. When she comes to, he's trying to finish her off, but she somehow manages to fight him off and escape. Boom. She runs blindly and crashes right into Malcolm. She lets out a blood-curdling scream and passes out all over again from the shock. When she comes to again, she finds herself back at her grandmother's house, but this time the door is locked from the outside. Mary walks in and casually tells her to take her medication. Red is furious, demanding to know what exactly is going on here. She desperately tries to explain that she saw the missing boy in the woods, but Mary couldn't care less, coldly telling her to just shut up and take the pills. Red completely loses it and tries to push past her to reach her grandmother, but Malcolm blocks her path. He and Mary pin her down, and Mary jabs her with a syringe. Almost instantly, she knocks out cold, completely paralyzed. Later that evening, she heads down to have dinner with her sneaky, manipulative grandma. The old lady plays the sympathy card, telling Red that she lost her mother at a young age too, and shortly after, her father passed away. So, she claims she completely understands the exact pain Red is going through right now. She goes on to say that since she was the only girl in the family, she inherited this massive, sprawling empire. She reveals her father had always desperately wanted a son, but never got the golden boy he dreamed of. And here comes the massive shocker, my friends. Grandma drops the bomb. You met my brother. And guess who it is? Thomas, the creepy guy from the woods. She explains that absolutely no one knows he's still alive, and they are willing to do whatever it takes to keep it that way. A total, deadlocked secret. She tells Red that when she's older, she'll understand how to protect her family, even if it means sacrificing her own dignity. You'll learn eventually, she says. You just need a little taming, that's all. The next day, Red wakes up terrified to find she can't move a single muscle. Standing over her bed are those three absolute monsters who seriously deserve to burn in hell. Her grandmother tells her a twisted story about how her own father used to beat his horses to break them, and how he did the exact same thing to her so she would learn responsibility and protect the family name. Then, she casually orders Malcolm to teach Red a lesson. As if that wasn't traumatic enough, Grandma reveals the dark, twisted truth about Thomas. When he was a kid, he was completely feral. It was so bad that when their dad chained him up in the woods to discipline him, Thomas literally ate the rats crawling around him out of sheer starvation. So, the dad forced him to stay chained out there in the freezing woods for 3 whole months. But the absolute worst part? When their mom finally reached her breaking point and snuck out to set him free, he was so blindly starved that he looked at her like a juicy roasted steak. He literally tore his own mother to pieces. And ever since that horrific day, he's been living out in those woods all alone. He is the very wolf that has everyone in town terrified. She reveals that there was actually a real wolf in the woods once, and people saw it, but Thomas took it out. And since nobody knows Thomas is lurking out there, they're all too terrified to step foot in the forest, thinking the wolf is still on the prowl. Red fires back. Why the hell are you just sitting back and letting him kill innocent people? Grandma coldly replies, if you still don't understand why by now, then we're going to have to extend your taming period. And the wicked old bat actually orders them not to give her any dinner tonight. After Grandma leaves, Mary drops a sickening bombshell, leaning in and whispering that she hopes Thomas eats her arm exactly like he did to her mother. Red completely breaks down over her rotten luck. I mean, this entire family is absolutely batshit crazy, just completely unhinged. To make matters worse, Grandma brings in a corrupt doctor to falsely diagnose Red as mentally ill and an addict, just like her mom, claiming they are simply trying to rehabilitate her so she gets clean. But in reality, they were the ones pumping her full of drugs every single day to actually force her into becoming an addict. The poor girl was literally the walking dead. A while passes, and she's been put through the absolute ringer, practically starving to death. Finally, this monstrous grandma shows a tiny shred of mercy and feeds her, but not before forcing her to take her medication first. The exact medication designed to keep her completely submissive and under their control. She tells Red, if you would just understand me and uphold our traditions, you'll live a life you couldn't even dream of. Sometime passes like this, and Red seems totally broken and compliant. But one day, she decides to play Mary and totally fakes swallowing the pills. She starts putting on an Oscar-worthy performance, acting completely zoned out and docile, exactly how they want her. While taking a bath one day, she casually asks Mary, did Thomas really eat my mom's arm? Mary flat out says yes. She explains that Scarlet was just as stubborn as Red and absolutely refused to submit to whatever Thomas was doing out there. So Grandma decided to teach her a harsh lesson and literally threw her Thomas. Of course, the official cover story everyone bought was that Scarlet lost her arm in a car crash. After that horror show, it took her a long time to physically recover, and the intense trauma drove her straight into severe addiction. Then, she just vanished out of thin air, and nobody could figure out where she went, to the point where they all just assumed Thomas had finally finished her off. Hearing all of this, Red completely breaks down, sobbing for her mother and the absolute living nightmare she was forced to endure. When Mary comes in to give her the shot, Red completely catches her off guard and jams the syringe right into her. Finally, she takes down one of these freaks. She snatches the keys from Mary's pocket and sneaks out, absolutely terrified. But her grandma was too busy to even notice. She was having some twisted little private party with Malcolm and the devil himself. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if she was the one eating people. Anyway, Grandma hears the keys jingling and goes to check it out, and absolutely loses her mind when she realizes Red is escaping. Red runs for her life, terrified of bumping into Thomas in the dark. The second she hears Malcolm's car engine, she dives into hiding. He keeps calling out to her, warning her that she's way better off living with them rather than becoming Thomas's next dinner. But when she refuses to come out, he shouts, "I warned you, suit yourself," and fires a gunshot straight into the air. And that, my friends, is the dinner bell for the big bad Thomas. Once Malcolm drives off, she bolts straight to Ewan's place and spills everything that just happened. Ewan tells her not to worry, saying he already called the cops. His brother completely loses it, yelling at him, "What cops? You think the police can do a damn thing against that wicked old witch?" Before they can make a run for it, the police show up at the door. Red tells them the whole horrific story, and they reassure her that they'll get her justice. They take her with them to head to the station to file a report. But she is absolutely blindsided when she realizes they're driving straight toward her grandmother's estate. Honestly, I'm not even surprised at this point. And of course, guys, it turns out these corrupt cops are on Grandma's payroll, and they hand her right back over. Her grandma looks her dead in the eye and says, "Since you chose your mother's path, I'll treat you exactly the way I treated her." Malcolm drags her to a shed near the house, ties her up, and forces her to wear her mom's favorite jacket. Then he steps outside, fires another shot into the air, and just leaves her there, leaving the door wide open. Meanwhile, Ewan is worried sick. He calls the precinct to make sure she arrived safely, only to be hit with the massive shock that the officers who picked her up were already off duty. He instantly realizes they're working for the grandmother and that Red is in serious danger. He, his brother, and their buddy immediately head out to track her down. Back at the shed, Thomas finally reaches Red. He creeps up, telling her she reminds him exactly of her mother. Honestly, guys, this creep spares absolutely no one. Not the mom and not the daughter. And then, the ultimate plot twist. He tells her that he is her father. What an absolute dumpster fire of a family. But as luck would have it, Ewan arrives just in time, screaming out her name. Spooked by the noise, Thomas takes off into the woods. Ewan rushes in and frantically unties her, but they are instantly ambushed by Malcolm, aiming his rifle right at them. They dive into his brother's car and floor it, speeding away just before Malcolm can land a shot. On the drive back, Red suddenly tells them to stop the car. She drops the absolute bomb that the monster in the woods is actually her father, and she refuses to just walk away and let him keep killing and eating innocent people. She tells them she's going back in. At first, the guys completely refuse, but seeing how fiercely determined she is, they cave and decide to back her up. They leave their buddy, the guy with the glasses, behind in the car, telling him to call for backup if they aren't back in an hour. Armed with some weapons, they head straight into the dark woods. A little while later, the poor guy left in the car hears a rustling noise, but before he can even react, Malcolm ambushes him and puts a bullet right through him. Meanwhile, Ewan and his brother finally locate Charlie. The brother frantically tries to untie the kid, but Thomas lunges out of the shadows and takes him out. Ewan is completely devastated. He fires a blind shot at Thomas and chases after him into the woods to end it once and for all. But tragically, Malcolm spots him and takes him out too, sending him straight to the grave right next to his brother and his friend. But then, Red steps out of the shadows holding Ewan's brother's gun. She looks Malcolm dead in the eye, tells him enough is enough, and shoots him, doing herself and the entire town a massive favor. With Malcolm gone, she finally unties Charlie and sneaks him back to her grandmother's mansion, telling him to wait right there downstairs while she finishes this. She creeps upstairs, ready to finally take down the wicked ringleader herself. But she gets the shock of a lifetime. She walks into the room only to find half of her grandma is literally missing. She instantly realizes Thomas came back and tore his own sister apart. Hey, I guess she finally got a taste of her own medicine, right? Red rushes back downstairs to grab Charlie, but he's gone. She looks outside and spots Thomas dragging the boy away. She screams at him to let the kid go and take her instead. But Thomas chillingly replies that his father always wanted a son, and now he wants a boy to carry on his twisted legacy. Desperate, she looks right at him and calls him Dad, reminding him that she is his actual flesh and blood. And incredibly, it works. He lets go of Charlie and slowly walks toward her. But the absolute second he drops his guard, she strikes. She unleashes every single ounce of her pent-up rage, fighting him tooth and nail until she finally finishes him off for good. And just like that, my friends, she becomes the wealthiest girl in town, sitting on a massive fortune big enough to feed her great-great-grandkids. Well, assuming she even wants to start a family after surviving this absolute trauma fest. She was put through the absolute ringer. Yeah, but she definitely hit the ultimate jackpot in the end. And that's a wrap on this movie, guys. A movie where literally only one person makes it out alive.